Anything you would do differently with setting up the business or the way you've structured it?
I guess because it was a passion project, I wasn't as diligent with the financials as I would have been if I'd started again from now. So just setting things up the right way and going through the process of registering for GST, paying, like setting up wages in the correct way, all those types of things that I probably learned further down the track, which
normally
I could have made some more money early days.
It's tough because when you're first starting out, you don't know if it's worth, investing in setting up those, those entities and whatnot as well, because you don't know if you're just going to run 3 or 4 events and actually hate it and then want to sell the caravan off.
Yeah, and I think I've learned to, I try to do everything myself at the start, like the social media, the website, like building those things by myself. And I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons is paying somebody who's a specialist in that area to do it and do a really good job of it. So far in my experience is always been worth it rather than, trying to do it yourself when it's not your area of expertise. So I've been really fortunate lately, and this is probably things I've only learned the last couple of years of working with Libby Cooper at Libby Cooper Design to actually take some things off my hand, and she's much better at it than I am. So
love it.
That's probably the biggest learning out of it. Don't try and do everything yourself and get the right people in to do it for you. Interesting time for coffee in the coffee industry. It's the highest rising commodity in the world in terms of cost. Really challenging season in Brazil with a frost, and Brazil being the biggest coffee producer in the world, that sort of had flow-on effects to lots of other countries that produce coffee. So the price of coffee basically had its biggest rise in 25 years. So there's obviously challenges of that with
telling increasing the price to the customers, and then how the customers responding to that. Do you the cost that percentage-wise it's increased for you? Do you then have to flow on the exact same increase?
Yeah, that's right. So there's obviously challenges for yourself in terms of your profitability and your profit levels, but also with your customers. But fantastically, most of them are really understanding. They appreciate that it's not forever. And then it's just the nature of that type of industry that there are ebbs and flows. I think the hardest part was basically all parts of production were experiencing quite high inflation for a lot of cafes. So we try and support them wherever we can with not passing that on, but it's inevitable that a lot of stuff, I guess, in the media over the last month or two about the price of a cup of coffee is increasing, and that's probably just people will start to get used to paying a little bit more for a cup of coffee.
Get a call from Subiaco saying, we've seen you're a pretty hard in and under midfielder. We like the way you go about it. Do you feel like travelling all the way over west and give you a few dollars?
It was interesting. The dollars isn't so much. It's something that I think Subiaco have a reputation for that is probably it almost works in our favour actually. But I'll come back to that later on. But I was working with Oakley at the time, and I'd got an amazing job working with Oakley in St Kilda, and it was as a product manager, and I loved it. Like the office culture at this place was amazing. Just a fun place to go, and I mean, you wanted to go in there every day. There was no lying in bed dreading the workday. You couldn't wait to get in there. So I wasn't super keen on moving, and I was captain at Frankston Footy Club and loved that too. And Scully called me, so Jared Schofield.
Yep. Now at Port Adelaide.
He's actually at West Coast. Just made the move to West Coast. So great footy mind.
He's tipped to be a possible AFL coach in the near future, isn't he?
Absolutely, definitely has the credentials and the ability to be an AFL head coach. It's just what he decides he wants to do, I think, and if opportunity opens up for him. But he gave me a call, and he's also a very charming and charismatic man and quite good at convincing people to do things. But I said no. But about a month later, we had one employee at Oakley who left to go back to the East Coast, and I sort of thought this opportunity won't present itself again. So I moved to take that job and also play with Subi at the same time.
And called him back and said, all right, you've convinced me.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up at Subiaco in start of 2015.